What if someone buried billions in gold under the desert 2,000 years ago and left a map? Not a legend, not a myth, an actual physical document listing 64 specific hiding spots with the quantities of gold and silver at each one. That document exists. It's sitting in a museum right now. Researchers have studied it for 70 years, and not one hiding spot has ever been found. In 1947, a Bedouin shepherd threw a stone into a cave near the Dead Sea and accidentally discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls, one of the greatest archaeological finds in history. Over the next 5 years, researchers combed 11 caves in the area and recovered hundreds of ancient manuscripts, religious texts, biblical books, community laws. But in Cave 3, in 1952, they found something that had no business being there. Every other scroll was made of animal skin or papyrus. This one was made of copper. 3 sheets of it, rolled up, corroded solid after 2,000 years underground. It was so brittle they couldn't open it. They sent it to a laboratory in Manchester, England, where a team cut it into strips with a circular saw. When they finally read what was inside, it wasn't scripture. It wasn't prophecy. It was a list, a very, very specific list. The scroll opens. In the fortress in the Vale of Acre, 40 cubits under the steps entering to the east. A money chest, 17 talents. That's the first entry. There are 63 more. Gold ingots under threshing floors, silver hidden in cisterns, sacred vessels sealed in underground chambers. Entry after entry, written with the dry precision of someone who actually hid this treasure and needed to remember exactly where it was. Scholars have tried to add it up. The copper scroll describes approximately 65 tons of silver and 26 tons of gold, plus sacred temple vessels and perfumed oil. At today's gold prices, that's over $4 billion. Still buried, still waiting. The biggest undiscovered treasure in history isn't a legend, it's an itemized inventory. The Dead Sea Scrolls are associated with the Essenes, a small Jewish sect who lived in the desert at Qumran. Some believe the treasure was theirs, but the Essenes were ascetic. They owned almost nothing. 65 tons of gold was not their communal savings, which points to a second theory, one that changes everything. In 70 AD, the Roman Emperor Titus marched on Jerusalem and destroyed the Second Temple. And before he arrived, someone got there first. The Second Temple was legendary for its wealth, gold donated by Jews from across the world for centuries. When Rome came, the priests had days, maybe weeks. They couldn't stop the army, but they could scatter the treasury. 64 hiding spots across the Judean desert, then record every location on something that would last. Not parchment, copper. The Romans destroyed the temple. They paraded its treasures through Rome, the menorah, the table of showbread, all of it carved into the Arch of Titus, which still stands today. But not everything was captured. Some of it was already gone. Here's what makes this maddening. The scroll gives real directions to real places that no longer exist. The cave of the old washer's chamber, 3rd terrace. The black stone at the mouth of the pit. The twin tunnels. 2,000 years of war, earthquake, and rebuilding have erased every landmark the scroll uses as a reference point. The map is readable. The world it describes is gone. Near the end of the document, there is one final entry. It doesn't describe treasure. It says, in a pit to the north, buried at its mouth. A copy of this document with an explanation, their measurements, and a full inventory of each thing. There is a second scroll, one that explains the first. That gives the full key to every location. That second scroll has never been found. Not everyone believes it. The scholar who first decoded the copper scroll, John Allegro, led an expedition in 1960, found nothing, and later argued the treasure never existed. The quantities, he said, were too large. More gold than the entire ancient Near East was known to possess. Maybe it was symbolic, maybe it was fiction, maybe someone engraved a fantasy into copper for reasons we'll never understand. But that argument collapses on one question: why copper? Parchment was cheap and available. Copper was expensive, rare, and hard to work with. Nobody hammers a fairy tale into metal. The people who made this scroll believed what was on it was real enough to survive whatever was coming. You don't preserve fiction for 2,000 years. You preserve things worth finding. The copper scroll isn't lost. It's in a display case at the Jordan Archaeological Museum in Amman. You can visit it. The scroll itself has been solved, translated, photographed, studied by every major institution in the world. The mystery isn't the document, it's the landscape it describes. The treasure, if it's real, is sitting under the desert right now. We just can't read the directions anymore. Ground-penetrating radar and LiDAR are changing what's possible. In the last decade, these tools have found buried Roman cities, hidden Mayan temples, and sealed underground chambers without a single shovel. Researchers have proposed a systematic scan of the Qumran region using exactly this technology. It hasn't been done yet, which means the most valuable undiscovered treasure in history might be 10 feet underground in a patch of desert that simply hasn't been scanned. 2,000 years ago, someone faced the destruction of everything they held sacred. They couldn't save the temple, but they could save the gold. They scattered it, stamped its locations into copper, and trusted that someone would come back for it. They never did. The map survived. The treasure might still be there. And somewhere in that same desert, there is a second scroll, with the explanation that makes the first one readable. No one has found it yet.